House, and particularly as part of this government, where the largest amount of money is being invested in education ever. Budget 2010, it is $12 billion that is being invested, because this side of the House recognises that education is so vital for this country, for lifting achievement and for growing our economy. We recognise that this particular piece of legislation, the Education Amendment Bill number 2, covers a number of areas, and I thought, Mr Speaker, I would just cover those briefly, but also just bring some practical examples of how these changes will be applied. So the first one really is around the trades academies, which will actually, as part of this bill, be able to function with the flexibility that they need to provide options for people in our high schools. And as many of the members in this House will know, no doubt you've been at high school prize givings in the recent weeks, and I know that they are always a time of celebration when we see how fantastic our young people are, how well they're achieving in such a range of topics and subjects, sports, drama, academics. And so this is just another one that actually provides some further opportunities to make some of the policies that we have been elected on come to fruition. So if we look at a number of speakers, Mr Speaker, have talked about the technical changes that we made in the Select Committee, particularly around the New Zealand Teachers' Council, so I won't spend any more time on that because I think it's been well covered in this reading. So in terms of the 6 broad areas, as I said, the introduction of secondary tertiary programs which give greater opportunities for young people in secondary schools up and down New Zealand to spend time learning in a tertiary environment or in the workplace. So this is really allowing us to have some flexibility to provide learning opportunities for young people that will better suit their needs. And I do want to come back to and speak in a bit more detail the exemptions for the limited attendance centres from ECE licensing standards, because I think we've heard a bit of dramatisation about actually what this particular piece is about. Changing refund provisions for international... it's fascinating to hear the comments that are being thrown across the House, Mr Speaker. Actually, let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it now, because as a mother, 3 children, I've had children in early childhood centres, but this is quite different from that. We are talking about someone like me who perhaps goes to the gym for an hour, hops on my exercycle, indoor bike, and there's a glass panel over there. My children are not in preschool anymore, but they were not so long ago. So I'm sitting there, I'm on the bike for an hour, I can see through the glass window my 4-year-old happy child, my decision to leave my child there. And actually, as a parent, I really like having the opportunity to leave my child in an environment where I'm not far away, gives me the flexibility to undertake some exercise, which we all know, particularly with Diabetes Awareness Week this week, how important it is for mothers, parents to be able to engage in exercise, and for a gym to be able to offer that as a service, Mr Speaker. And, you know, if as a mother I make a choice to do that, that is my choice to do that as a parent. And so, therefore, there is some responsibility on me to be comfortable with the environment that I'm leaving my children in. And actually, I trust parents to do that, Mr Speaker. I trust parents to be able to make a decision if they want to go to the gym for an hour, to leave their child just over there where they can see them. Same as at a Sunday school. So at Sunday school, if I want my children to be looked after for a couple of hours while I'm in church in the building next door, then actually I'm quite comfortable with the fact that the person who is with my child or children for perhaps an hour, less, maximum of 2 hours, actually, I'm quite comfortable with the fact that they're not going to be teaching them how to read, write and do maths. I'm quite comfortable with the fact that they're going to be looked after, which is very different from the rigour of the regulations that are required for a licensed early childhood centre. So this is actually about just bringing some common sense back to this sort of area. And I think back to when the Now opposition made this change initially. And I think back to some of the comments and the horror and disgust and annoyance from parents because of the overly bureaucratic, nonsensical regulations that opposition, when they were in government, wrapped around a centre like this. Limited attendance. So I'm pleased I was able to put the record straight, Mr Speaker, on this, because this is another measure that this government is doing to get rid of stupid bureaucracy, absolutely stupid bureaucracy, and thinks that parents don't have the ability to make a decision for their children and to be able to exercise perhaps for an hour in the gym while their children are just there. So, what else? The other thing that I was really excited about in this particular bill was the members' bill that I put forward. I put it in the ballot to change enrolment zones for schools. And I was very excited when the changing of priorities was brought into this particular piece of legislation, because it actually allows for the priority of children of board members and former pupils to get some priority in the enrolment schemes. And why I think this is important, Mr Speaker, and why I put this into the ballot in the first place, is because I recognise that schools have a strong sense of community, and I think it's really important for the achievement of children to have some connection to the school they're with, and those connections are often stronger, those bonds are deeper when they have a parent that's been there. Obviously siblings are already one of the priorities, and also the pupils of board members. So the board members have a strong connection to the school, and it makes sense that in terms of keeping that connection strong, that those children should have a priority in that school. And so I'm proud, Mr Speaker, I'm proud of that particular amendment, that particular piece of the bill that has been put into this as a result of a members' bill that was in the ballot and got adopted to be incorporated in this particular piece of legislation, which is the number 2 bill. So what else do we do in this particular legislation? Because, we've talked about the limited attendance centre, and I could speak quite happily for 10 minutes on that alone, because I think it is so important. And I also just want to come back to a comment that was made earlier in this House about cuts to early childhood education, because I'm sick to death, Mr Speaker, I'm sick to death of that particular comment when you think that there's an extra, and here's where the maths lesson comes in, extra $107 million. That's a plus sign. How's your maths? That's a plus sign. $107 million extra into early childhood education. So that people in my electorate in the Taupō electorate get access to early childhood education, because I believe every child has the right to a place in an early childhood centre, and I'm really thrilled to be supporting this piece of legislation because we're a government committed to education.